Hi folks, it's good to be with you. Love to everybody out there. My name is Jason. You can get me on Facebook and Twitter. You can also get me on my website, jasonburnspreacher.com, jasonburnspreacher.com, and you can get me on Amazon, where there's at least 10 to 15 books of mine, some that I've written, some that I've edited, that you can get there for free, or you can pay, whichever you want. So it's good to be with you. This is a challenge to Mohammed Hijab and the Koran, and we're looking at the issue of the Koran. If anybody wants the notes of where I'm getting this from, it's Sam Shamoun, Is the Quran the Word of God? And it was a debate with Shabir Ali. And so that's the text that I'm reading from. So here we go. So this is Mohammed Hijab and the Quran. So these are some challenges to Mohammed Hijab on the Quran and to Muslims out there, a Muslim apologist. So first of all, what the scholars have to say about textual variants. One Muslim scholar has acknowledged this. Hence, the few divergences without importance, for example, between Abu Darad and Ibn Masud on the one hand and Ziyad ibn Thabit on the other, the veterans being unwilling to yield to a young man, even though he is the scribe of the Prophet concerning the writing down of the revelation of the Quran. There may be other and better explanations of this problem. I remain extremely hesitant. This is in the Problems of Variants in Le Saint Coran, Traduction et Commentaire de Mohammed Hamidullah, and you can get it on 1989, and you can get these notes, as I said, on Sam Shamoun, Is the Quran the Word of God? Debate with Shabir Ali. So here's a Muslim scholar, and he's admitting here that there are textual variants, but he says they're minor, but he just doesn't know how to deal with them. Here is Arthur Jeffrey in the material of the history of the text of the Quran. He documents the various readings between the competing codices in circulation prior to the Quran's standardization under Uthman. Jeffrey claims that when we come to the accounts of Uthman's recension, it quickly becomes clear that his work was no mere matter of removing dialectical peculiarities and reading, as many Muslims claim, but was necessary stroke of policy to establish a standardized text for the whole empire. He writes, there were wide divergences between the collections that have been digested into codices in the great metropolitan centers of Medina, Mecca, Basra, Kufa, and Damascus. Thus Uthman's solution was to canonize the Medinan Codex and order all others to be destroyed. Jeffrey then states there can be little doubt that the text canonized by Uthman was only one among several types of text existent at the time. Jeffrey's page 7 to 8. He concludes, it's quite clear that the text which Uthman canonized was only one out of many rival texts, and there is grave suspicion that Uthman may have seriously edited the text he canonized. So Jeffrey's there acknowledging that there are, in the early history of Islam, that there were issues concerning Quranic manuscripts, that there were differences. And so that's quite a powerful scholar there. Norman Anderson, British scholar Sir Norman Anderson states, so although it is true that today the Kufan text and Hafs is accepted almost everywhere in the Muslim world, the claim commonly made by Muslims that they have ipsissime verba of what Muhammad actually said, without any invariant readings, rests upon an ignorance of the facts of history. Anderson, Islam in the Modern World, Leicester, Apollos, 1990, page 47. Islamicist Alfred Gulem notes that the truth is that the textual history of the Quran is very similar to that of the Bible. Both books have been preserved remarkably well. Each is, in its basic structure and content, a very fair record of what was originally there, but neither book has been preserved totally without error or textual defect. Both have suffered here and there from variant readings in the early codices to us but neither has in any way been corrupted. Sincere Christians and Muslims will honestly acknowledge these facts. So he's saying here that the Quran, generally speaking, has been preserved, and the Bible, generally speaking, preserved. But notice what this Muslim scholar says. He continues, the only difference between the Quran and the Bible today is that the Christian Church, in the interest of truth, carefully preserved the variant readings, whereas the Muslims at the time of Uthman deemed it expedient to destroy as far as possible all the evidence of different readings of the Quran in the cause of standardizing one text for the whole of the Muslims. These facts must always be considered against the background of further evidence from the Hadith that the Quran today is still not complete. Anderson, page 20 to 21. So here it's very, very clear that this Islamicist is saying that the difference between the Bible and the Quran is that the Quran, in the early days, they destroyed the evidence. So it should make you doubt the text. Should make you doubt the text. And the next thing is that the Quran. So these scholars are recognizing, as you study the history of Islam, there are differences between these texts, these ancient texts in the Quran, and they're not the same. And when we look at the history, we see the history is verifying this. What the actual ancient writers of Islam, collectors of the Quran, said, Uthman, Abu Bakr, and etc., etc. These scholars have investigated, and they're finding what the Muslims have said is not true. Now, the Quran is not complete, and we find Islamic traditions concerning this. Many of the passages of the Quran that were sent down were known by those who died on the day of Yaman, but they were not known by those who survived them, nor were they written down, nor had Abu Bakr, Umar, or Uthman by the time collected the Quran, nor were they found even one person after them. Ibn Abu Dawud, Kitab al-Mashif, page 23. So here's an ancient Muslim writer and collector of hadiths, and he's saying that there were people that had forgotten or hadn't put things in the Quran that they should have put in. These are in the Muslim sources. Narrated by Ibn Abbas, an ancient writer, Umar said, Abi was the best of us in the recitation of the Quran, yet we leave some of what he recites. Ubay says, I have taken it from the mouth of Allah's apostle and will not leave for anything whatsoever. But Allah said, none of our revelations do we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, but we substitute something better or similar. 2.106, Bukhari, volume 6, book 61, number 527. So here, the writer is saying, yet we leave some of what he recites. So there are things that this person is saying that is not put in the Quran. It's quite damning, folks. This is ancient sources. Narrated by Ibn Abbas again. Umar said, our best Quran reciters is Ubay, and our best judge is Ali. And in spite of this, we leave some of the statements of Ubay, because Ubay says, I do not leave anything that I have heard from the Allah apostle while Allah. Whatever verse revelations do we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, but we bring a better one or similar to it. 2.106, Bukhari, volume 6, book 60, number 8. These missing verses cannot be referring to abrogated parts of the Quran, says Samsamoon, which were no longer essential, since even the abrogated parts still form part of the text today. But it's very clear here, our best Quran reciter, Ubay, and our best judge is Ali. And in spite of this, we leave some of the statements of Ubay, because Ubay says, I do not leave anything that I have heard from Allah's apostle while Allah. So, confusing here. On the one hand, it's saying there that we leave out Ubay, and yet he's the best reciter, and that Ubay says he doesn't leave out anything. So, we're seeing that these sources, ancient sources, are full of contradictions, which means you can't rely on what the Muslims are saying, that the Quran has been preserved. We're going to go on to the next video.